Good morning, everyone. This is an interesting and very instructive game because it shows the general idea behind almost every chess encounter. And so we started out with d4. I have the white pieces. I'm going to let this is on chess.com. I'm going to let the arrows run on this game just for the sake of it. Let's see. Okay. Book move. Okay, so it's showing the book move. All right. Knight to c3. All right. So, I don't study opening, so I don't like to get into too much complications out of the opening. So I'm just going to take here. And it's a book move. See, how do you like that? If you play principled moves, move your pieces, you'll be playing a known opening, whether you realize it or not. And there will be play in the position, and since chess is a relative skill-based game, you will be able to find resources against a player of equal ability, because they will be there. See, I was really surprised. I played a3 here, and I'm really surprised that it was considered. I'm not sure what this up arrow is. It means at least a good move. So yeah, I just wanted to stop his bishop from pinning me, since here's my plan. Okay, look, when let me back up here a bit. When I captured and he recaptured with his e-pawn, this is creating now we see I have 3 pawns against 4 pawns over here. So we have 2 against 3. Let's put it that way. 2 against 3 pawns over here. And whenever you have a minority of pawns, you can try to create pawn weaknesses with your minority. And it's called a minority attack. But it exemplifies more than anything the idea of creating weak pawns, and then you go after that weak pawn that you've created. And that gives you the it ties your opponent down to defense, and that's like the most important thing in chess, right? So I'll show you how this pans out. And it's what's insidious about this minority attack out of the opening, when there's this type of pawn structure with this 2 against 3 over here like this. There's really nothing your opponent can do. He has to kind of go into this, which is why I like it so much, because I'm controlling play, right? Bishop g5, pinning the knight. That's not the best move, but it's a good move, right? The computer wants bishop to f4. You'll see that it continues to want to play bishop to f4. Okay, he defends with the knight. And I'm going to develop and castle. I back off, keep the pin. Still wanted the bishop to be f4. But it's still a good move. Thumbs up, you see? Not the best move, but still a good move. Oh, it's considered an excellent move. Now I'm seeing these little icons, what they mean. All right, bishop to d6. Considered, what does that mean? Best move, yeah. And now, okay, so you always have a decision about where to move your minor pieces out in the opening, right, before you castle. And since I know the general theme of the minority attack, and that is to trade minor pieces. I mean, safely trade minor pieces. And then when you create the weak pawn, the rooks and queens will be attacking it. He'll be tied down to defense, and then you can switch your attack over to the other side of the board, or create the second weakness, right? The idea of the second weakness in chess. So you'll be commanding play. All right, so he takes, I take, he castles, I castle. All right, he develops his rook, and now I go for the minority attack, right? I want to create a weak pawn. If I can get this push in, b5, and whatever he does, if he captures, then this pawn becomes weak. If he doesn't capture and I recapture, then that backward pawn becomes weak. But easier said than done. I mean, there's a lot of play in this position. So there will be a lot of play, a lot of tension, and complications depending on how complicated you want to make it. And my opponent was really good. He understood exactly what was going on. He knew that this was a minority attack, and he was taking countermeasures to that. So basically, here's the other general idea, right? So I'm attacking on the queen side, which means, if you're playing for a win, then it means your opponent should be playing to attack on the king side if the center is closed, right? And right now the center is closed, right? So, I can't push. He's commanding this. Well, actually, I could. Well, he can break this pin easily, right? So, if he pushes, he can't push because I'll just win a pawn and create this weak pawn. So the center is temporarily locked. So that means the play is going to be on the queen side and the king side. Now, so you've got to have your counterattack. This is the main thing. That's another main theme of chess. You have to be really careful if you're just trying to neutralize your opponent's attack without having your own counterattack, because you have to be sure you can do that, because otherwise you're going to lose. So that's why you see counterattack in chess all the time at the highest level, because it's their only way of surviving. And then you have to calculate whose attack is going to land first, or the better attack to land first. Yeah. All right. So I'm preparing this now. I have a threat. What's the threat, guys? Right. The threat is to bring my knight here and get the bishop because the pin. And he sees that. He gets out of that pin. And now I'm preparing to push maybe a4 to b5, a4, knight in. Okay. And now, there's a lot of calculation here, because this pawn, it's being attacked twice by the queen and bishop battery. And if I come here, it's possible he could really sack and win a bunch of pawns here. So I really wasn't sure. I wasn't sure really how this was going to pan out, but I thought I could survive it. So I go for the b5 push to create the weak pawn. Takes. And now he gets, and look, that's considered a good move by the computer. Take back with the rook. That took some calculation with the queen or the rook, right? If I took with the queen, he could hit my queen with the rook here. But I also wanted my queen on the light square in case he recaptured. But anyway, so he gets, now there's a threat also. Oh, that was the other reason. There's a big threat, right? I could take. That's the other reason I took back with the rook. I could capture, and then he can't recapture with the pawn. So he gets out of that pin. But do you see how white is keeping black down, to defense? And now I feel pretty good over here, because now this has been relieved. The pressure against the h2 pawn has been relieved. And now I can just proceed with trying to trade off minor pieces and hopefully create the weak pawn. But he does a great job of preventing me from creating the weak pawn. Yeah. I don't know what the statistics are of minority attacks, of the minority attack. Black versus white, depending on the ratings of the opponents, but it's not easy to convert this. And he really, we had to go almost to the end game before he cracked. And I thought I could lose this game. I felt a whole lot better now, thinking that it'll probably be a draw, but it's a 10-minute game. And so this was now I'm trying to win, right? So and it was clear that he knew what the problem was and that he didn't want to create the weak pawn, right? So I was trying to figure out a way to make it more complicated now, and with threats, though. Yeah, so I brought my knight here for a reason. I want to push e4 and actually even get my knight in. and then I would have this pawn. Actually, no, that was the other reason. So I push here, and I could take, and then I could push, and maybe create a passed pawn. I'm just, capitalizing on this X-ray against the queen. So the computer wants me to hit the rook. It's funny. I later saw that and realized, but I didn't see it during the game. Or after I had already initiated my plan, I did see it, but then I thought, no, I got to stick with this. So, all right, now I create a threat. What's the threat? Okay, the threat is if I capture, he can't recapture because of the X-ray. If he takes with the knight, this is what the real threat was. So if he takes with the knight, I could capture the knight. And then if he recaptures, I get the queen, and I would have knight and queen against the two rooks. He saw that and got out of it. And then this was, now I realize, okay, I'm in trouble. He's really good. And so I decided to defend that pawn. I don't want him to, because he's got the check. And he also has this check over here with the queen if my king runs. He has two attackers on this square, and I only have one defender. All right, now hits my rook. Now we're going for the trades. Yeah, and I'm hitting the knight, right? So I have the tempo. And he decides to run, and it considers it best. And this was the other part of the plan. I wanted to, as I mentioned in my other ones, I wanted to snake my way in with my queen and come over here and get this weak pawn, right? So here's a weak pawn back here. I'm going to go after it and get him tied down, and then hopefully, again, create this backward pawn and then try to win it, right? So I attack the knight, and now he I don't know what the percentage points are right now, but nobody's losing yet. It's still pretty even. Oh, I guess it just says here it is 0.47. So I take the pawn, hitting the rook. Now I have a passed pawn. And I saw that if he trades off, I will be able to escape. So boom, boom. And now my king has a pretty good hiding place over there. So I have a nice passed pawn, and the evaluation is +3 for white. So this worked out, this complication. And now he makes a big mistake. He takes the knight, and that was his only mistake. Not considered a blunder, but it's a mistake, and it's enough to lose. Now it's up +7, and I have a passed pawn. I'm defending the D pawn. And now I check him first to get my queen over here to help with the defense, and then I'm going to try to escort the pawn. And now it's a lost game for black. And I check him, and that's it. Game over. The queens are traded, and I'll get a queen. So this game really shows this is something. All these elements occur in virtually all chess games, right? Counterattack, the weak pawn going after the weak pawn. Okay, I hope you got something out of it. Thanks a lot, and talk to you later.